6:01. Let's just give it one more minute so that everybody is in, and then we can start like in a minute or so. All right. And it is 6:02. All right, so let's have this officially started. Thanks everyone for joining this presentation. And let me start by thanking Stout and the students for funding and supporting the Speaker Series event. I would also like to introduce Pamela Kleibrink Thompson. She's an internationally acclaimed recruiter, career coach, and animation veteran, production manager on Emmy Award-winning The Simpsons, ink and paint supervisor on the Paramount's animated feature Bebe's Kids. She was named one of the top 10 recruiters by Animation Magazine. Her career has given her hands-on knowledge of every aspect of games, animation, and visual effects. As the production manager of Brad Bird's Family Dog, an episode of Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories, Thompson set up an animation studio from scratch and worked with animators who went on to direct top-grossing animated features for Disney, Dreamworks, Sony, and Pixar. So thank you, Pamela, and take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Michael asked me to just make a comment about how I got in to doing animation, and I used to be in live action and discovered that people who worked in animation were very nice, very kind, and so I kind of stuck with it for a long time. And how I got my job on Family Dog was a friend of mine who I went to college with called me and told me that they were looking for a production person, and I wouldn't have known about it if he hadn't given me that call. So I'm going to talk a little bit about networking and all those kinds of things and how important that is, but it's super vital. I wouldn't be talking to you here today if it wasn't for networking. So I'm going to start my presentation, and I hope that all of you guys will be able to see my slides. So it's called How to Get the Job You Want. And there's my contact info. If you want to contact me, you'll be able to see that again later. I want to thank Ellie Naku for inviting me to do this, and the University of Wisconsin at Stout. The reason why this is happening is because of networking. I reached out to her, and she reached out to me after this CTN Live. Last year, I spoke at CTN Live, and the reason I spoke at CTN Live was because one of my coaching clients told me about it, and I also had interviewed Tina Price, who started CTN years and years and years ago. I interviewed her for an article in a magazine. So we're talking about networking, mutually beneficial relationships for the long term, for a long, long time. Also, thanks to Ellie, I can talk to you today because I have sound with my computer, because she helped me a lot the other day when I did not have sound, and stuck with me for over an hour working on it. So I started I worked in production before I became a recruiter and a career coach, and I like telling people about jobs, and I've seen thousands of resumes and demo reels. I've recruited for Fox and Raven Software, Disney, and lots of other companies, and I've been a recruiter for 25 years. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to have a small introduction and opportunities for artists, networking, resumes, cover letters. We're also going to cover demo reel tips and job categories for CG artists, and I'm not going to do sample demo reels because we won't have time. But I'm also going to do interviewing tips, the invisible resume, and some advice and insight. And there'll be plenty of opportunity for you guys to ask any questions, and I'll do my best to give you some answers. So
sorry, Pamela, to interrupt you.
And sometimes you might want to scream.
Sorry, Pamela, to interrupt you, but I was wondering, are you sharing your screen right now? Okay.
Oh, I am so sorry. No.
No worries. Not at all. I just thought I could remind you.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, no.
It's all good.
I'm going to have to start over, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to try doing it again.
Yes,
all right.
awesome. Now we see your screen. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, and then I'm going to share that all again. Okay, I'm going to fast forward.
Awesome.
This Ellie's picture. Thank you again for helping. She again helped me with my computer. Awesome
Absolutely.
person. Awesome person to know. If you don't know her, get to know her. Okay, start your networking now when you're in school. Very important to do. As you know, in school, networking is important. I got my job um, on the original Family Dog, the amazing stories episode because of because of my friend that I went to college with that told me about it. He wasn't involved with the interviewing at all, but he did tell me about it. So I always told him that I give him credit. I've always liked telling people about jobs, and I've seen a lot of resumes and demo reels. So I have recruited for Raven. Most of you guys probably know about Raven Software. I'm also going to tell you about a few other companies during this talk. And I've been a recruiter for 25 years. And we're going to go through, this is a basic thing that we're going to talk about, opportunities for artists and the importance of networking and how to do it. Resumes and cover letters. I'm going to give you some demo reel tips and some job categories for CG artists. I'm going to talk about interviewing and the invisible resume and give you some advice and insights along the way, I hope, and answer any questions that you guys might have. And you'll have plenty of chances to ask questions. Job hunting can be scary, and sometimes you might want to scream. The job hunt is a wild ride, and there will be plenty of highs and lows. At times, you'll barely stand it. During your job hunt, you'll have to juggle many tasks and keep track of all the employers you're interested in. You'll have to develop a thick skin and be ready for major changes and be adaptable and flexible. Today, you will get some ideas and tools to help you soar through the process. You might even find it fun. The real key to your career success is to follow your path that you love. Dale Carnegie said, "You'll never achieve real success unless you like what you're doing." Ratatouille is about pursuing your dream, no matter what the obstacles might be. Remy the Little Chef is an artist who pursued his passion. I hope everyone saw Ratatouille. It's important to support our industry and to see animated films and visual effects films. There's a world of opportunity for artists. Artists work in photography, in animation, illustration, digital filmmaking, interactive design. Artists are wanted all over the world. Not all the jobs are at Blizzard and Pixar and ILM. You might work on big projects even at small companies, which are often companies where these large companies outsource to smaller places. There's companies that you've never heard of, companies in Ames, Iowa, or Vancouver. There are lots of companies out there that are doing fantastic work for large companies and larger projects. Artists create music videos. This is a storyboard for a music video. Artists create visual effects, computer animation. Artists are needed in pre-visualization and in television, primetime, Saturday morning, syndicated series, cable, and now streaming. They work in motion picture advertising and marketing, designing movie posters. Artists work in theme park design. They design menus. They work in multimedia and educational software, direct-to-video features, training films, corporate videos, industrial films. Artists design restaurants. They work on websites for the internet and advertising and commercials, logos and station IDs, broadcast design and motion graphics. Artists are needed for scientific visualizations, military simulations, architectural visualization, interior design, and product design, including toys. Artists design consumer products, video games, packaging, transportation design, comic books, newspapers, magazines, greeting cards, publishing, and illustration all use artists. Artists create graphics and animation for slot machines, legal recreations, medical illustration, mobile games, and internet episodic shows, music and software, and other consumer products and packaging. Artists design postage stamps, the money we spend. Yes, people can make money using artistic skills and talents. I hope that there's no question anymore whether or not an artist can make money working at art. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
All right,
No?
so I'm looking through the chat and I don't see anything, but yeah, in case you have any questions, folks, you can just type it in the chat, and in those moments that Pamela asks if you have any questions, I will read those questions to Pamela. But for now, we don't have anything.
Okay, great. Job hunt is like climbing Mount Everest or running a marathon. You have to prepare and plan. You have to know where you're headed. Sometimes you might feel lost or confused. You have to know your target or your goal and know what you want to do. You might feel that you're so talented that employers should knock down your door, but you'll be the one knocking on doors. An effective way to find jobs is through want ads and job postings. Most jobs are hidden and they're never advertised. This is called the hidden job market. Are you wondering why all these people are smiling? They all have jobs, but only one found her job through an ad or posting. 20% of jobs are never advertised, and networking helps you find better opportunities and more choices. Networking is key to finding jobs that pay well, and conferences are great places to network, places like CTN. You have something in common with everyone. Even during COVID, we can still attend conferences online, and I recommend that highly. There's FMX is coming up next month, and I recommend that you check that out. That's a conference in Germany, and it's all online, and you don't have to pay to travel or anything. You can do it all from your home. So I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing tools, the resume, portfolio, and demo reel. They're keys to getting a job. You need to package yourself. Consider that you are a product and the marketing materials are like your ad. The purpose is to sell you, and it's not telling your life story. I'm going to talk about resumes a little bit. One of the things that's important is to have your contact info on there. One of the resumes that I saw at a SIGGRAPH several years ago was a 6-page academic resume. It had an address, but no name and no contact info. But it did have an address. So I actually sent the person a letter. It was an engineer, and he had wrote me back. But I do want to reiterate that you do need to have your current phone number. Make sure that you have your current area code on there, since area codes change a lot. And make sure there's some way of answering machine or a voicemail on your phone in case somebody calls you. And it's even if you don't have those things, make sure you have your email address on there. We want to be able to contact you. You need to use a large legible type font and make it really easy to read, not too much type, and you want to list your skills. That's what we're really interested in, is what can you do for me, right? When you send your resume to a company, they're all about what can this person bring to us. So you want to highlight your accomplishments, and you want to, if you have multiple pages, include your contact info on every page, just in case it gets printed out and distributed for some reason in a meeting. You want to make sure that people know how to contact you. You want to proofread it and make sure that it's clear what you want to do, especially important if you're changing careers. You want to be really specific. You want to name those software packages that you know. I don't want to see a variety of 3D packages on a resume because computers scan for keywords. You're actually sending your resume into a company and they're probably going to scan it and have the computer scan it, looking for certain keywords, but whatever their needs are. You want to review and update your resume every 6 months. Update it when your information changes. One of the things that's really cool is that you can include screenshots with your resume. That's separate. We'll see that in a moment. Good resumes are simple, clear, and concise. Like this is an example where the person is a recent graduate. They list what they graduated, their skills, and their experience. So going over content info up front, don't make us look for it. Objective, be really specific what you want to do. Whatever it is that your skill set is, be clear, because sometimes it's not necessarily clear and you don't want people to be guessing. And include all your skills, and you may want to use bullet points to highlight certain skills, and include your accomplishments, all your internships, everything that you've done, and any awards as well under your education. This is a time to toot your own horn and brag about your accomplishments. If your mom told you not to brag, I'm telling you to do it. Okay? Don't be modest. This is not a time to hold back. This is a time to let people know what you can do and what you want to do. Okay? Don't send resumes as an attachment because there's a fear of viruses. You can send it as a text instead. And it should be obvious, but don't email from work or use a work email address on your resume. And don't expect an employer to visit your website to view or download your resume if they're asking for one, okay? Think about what the employer wants and needs. This is a resume from a person in Boise, and they're applying for a job in Los Angeles as a production assistant, which is one of the entry-level jobs. And I would recommend this person remove their Boise address because the employer is probably not going to contact this person because they live in Boise. And so you want to remove any barriers that you do not put any barriers up in front of an employer. They're not going to take a chance on this person moving them from Boise to LA for an entry-level job, okay? Don't inflate your experience or your skills, okay? Cover letters are important if you have a personal connection. Let's say that if you've met someone at a conference or you've seen them speak, you know your grandmother knows somebody. A friend of mine got a job at on Apocalypse Now, a film that was done years ago because his grandmother knew somebody who worked for Francis Ford Coppola's company. So use those connections. Don't be shy. Make sure that you point those out. Or if you have a friend that works there, if another alumnus is working at a company, and that's the best way to find a new job. Any common ground that you guys might have, point that out in your cover letter. If you've been referred, that's fantastic. Or if you have an advantage, let's say the company is opening a branch in the Philippines and you used to live in the Philippines, point that out because that's an advantage that you have. And always be specific to the company. Say why you want to work there. Even if you think that this company has, received a zillion cover letters that say, I love your work. Well, it doesn't hurt to hear that again. So, and also point out what you can do for the company. Be really specific in your cover letters. And remember that your cover letters are a marketing tool. It's a sales tool, and make them brief because if it's too long, they're going to just set it aside. The same with your resume. You want to be really brief and to the point. Be short and to the point and specific and clear and easy to read and address to someone specific. do your research. Use Google, find a name. Even if you have to address the head of the company, if you're applying to Microsoft, dear Mr. Gates, that's fine. It'll get to the right person. So make sure that you address it to somebody specific. And use cover letters to clarify what you're offering the company if it's not clear from your resume. You can use it to indicate a career change or special circumstances or skills, and tell them why you want to work for them in particular. They love to hear that. And, if you want to, include something that you wouldn't necessarily include in a resume, that's going to use a cover letter also. So anybody have any questions about cover letters or resumes so far?
All right, let's see. I don't see anything in the chat, but we can wait a couple of seconds maybe to people to type up their questions, or folks, you can raise your hands if you have questions. I can unmute you. All right, so I don't see anything so far. So
good.
And you can,
if everybody knows something about them already. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And also, yeah. And also everyone can, if you later thought of a cover letter question or anything, you can just type it in the chat. And at the end, we have more time to all the questions. Oh, I've got a question here. So Carly is asking, will a cover letter make or break a job opportunity?
It can make it, because let's say that you were referred by somebody. It can open a door for you, as opposed to, not, right? I mean, if let's say that your friend is working at a company and they're referring you, and that friend is well thought of in the company, and you mention that person's name in your cover letter and say you were referred by that friend, that can certainly open up a door that might not necessarily be open otherwise. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it sure does make sense. But also
as far
maybe
as breaking it,
yeah, that's what I was going to
breaking
ask.
it, if
What
you have
can
a
you
lot
tell?
of typos, I mean, if you have a lot of mistakes in your resume, it shows that you really don't, or your cover letter, it shows that you really don't care and you're not careful. That might, cause somebody to put your application aside, right? If there's a lot of errors, it's a possibility that could break it, but the first thing that they're going to look at is your work, and then they'll look at the other stuff. So, and some companies don't even need a cover letter. It depends. But cover letter can be an extra tool for you if you have an advantage. Let's say that the company is bilingual, they're based in Quebec or and you speak French, that's, obviously an advantage. So those kinds of things that you can point out to, like, emphasize that they may not necessarily notice in your resume, or, you want to really make sure that they see it. So those are things that you can use a cover letter for. That might help.
Point. Yeah, thanks, Pamela.
Any other questions about those things?
I don't see anything. I guess we can just move on. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to portfolios and demo reels, do's and don'ts. And on websites, make sure that they're fast loading and they're easy to navigate. Like, the icons make sense if you're using icons. And always include your contact info and your email address, even on your on websites. I've seen some websites that are like fantastic work, beautiful stuff, and there's absolutely no way to contact a person. Include your resume also. On your email address, it would be great if you could make it just a clickable thing in case somebody really loves your work and they can just click through and write you a note. Don't make us fill out a form to be, and hope that you get back to us. we really want to be able to contact you. So please make sure that you, after you've created some beautiful work, let us see it. And emphasize your strengths. That's important to know what you're good at. A portfolio and a demo reel, it demonstrates your abilities and your creative talents, and we want to see a variety of work. You want to customize your portfolio and reel to the job and company you're applying to, if possible. For example, like if you were applying to a company that does photorealistic work, like a visual effects house, you would have photorealistic work rather than stylized work. If you're going to apply to a place like Pixar, they do stylized work. They don't do photorealistic work, so you wouldn't be sending your photoreal work to them. I hope that makes sense. So I'm always going to harp on the including your email address on everything, because just I thought that this would be over by now because we've been harping on this for years. But just last month, I was attending a roundtable with a bunch of different recruiters from like Framestore and Microsoft and everything. And they still brought up the fact that on websites, they have not been able to find people's contact info. So they cannot contact people about this. But every year at SIGGRAPH, I used to run into another recruiter I knew who worked at PDI, which was a company that used to do visual effects. And she would say to me, "You're going to tell everyone, right, about, just last week I got another reel without contact info." And I said, "Oh, Marilyn, when will this ever stop?" So I always have to mention that over and over again, apparently. So one of the things that's really important is to put your best, most recent work first, because if you save it for last, the people may never see it. Because they're going through reels quickly, and if you don't grab them right away, they're not going to stay for the whole show. So you really want to put your most recent best work right up front. Grab them right away. And you want to update your portfolio and reel every 6 months and remove any old work. You'll be judged by your weakest piece. I had an incident once years ago when I was working as the manager of art at a video game company. A gentleman submitted his portfolio, and we always had these pizza lunch portfolio reviews. Every Friday we would review people's work, and all the artists are leafing through it, and then they came across this one piece, and they said, "What is this?" And I came over and I kind of grabbed it out of their hands and hid it behind my back and said, "Continue looking through." This guy almost did not get the job because of that weakest piece. He was able to get hired, but that was only because there was someone like me pulling his piece out. It was a piece that he had done when he was in middle school that won awards. It belongs on his, framed in his living room rather than in his portfolio. So make sure that you update your portfolio regularly. And your portfolio should show your sketching and illustration skills. And if you're a photographer, target your photography portfolio to a specific market. Todd Owing does concert photography. Part of creating a successful portfolio is deciding what kind of work you want to go after, and first impressions are critical. Include 12 to 20 images of your best work. And for photographers, you should include both color and black and white and show great moments, be visually interesting. This photo is called Migrant Mother, and it's a Florence Owens Thompson and taken by Dorothea Lange. So on demo reel dues, some more. Make sure that your website has a reliable server and it loads quickly. One of the things that you want to do is to put your reel on Vimeo or YouTube Put portfolios on ArtStation, and always include your contact info on the reel and portfolios or on the blogs. And you want to make sure that it's accessible and easy to see. We don't want to have to put in a passcode and to contact you separately to be able to see your work. It's a professional presentation, so package yourself. The details really do matter. You might consider breaking your reel down into sections if you do different things, like character animation or lighting or whatever. And your portfolio and demo reel reflects you and what you think is quality work. So make sure it is quality work. A portfolio or demo reel, you also need to include a breakdown. It's called a shot list or credit list, and always include it and be clear. It's basically a short paragraph or sentence for every shot on the reel, and you want to be precise and concise. For example, like you did a Wizard of Oz segment, you animated the witch melting with software A and hardware B for company C. The information to be included in the breakdown is what was your involvement with each piece, explain exactly what you did for the shot, and what project was it done for? Was it done for films or games or TV or something else? Where was it done? At what company? Was it a personal project that you did at home? What tools did you use? Hardware and software tools. And here's a sample that you could use as like a grid sample. And here's one that you use thumbnails, and you can see that the person has done different things for different companies. He lists the first part is, what this thing is for, what it was, a commercial of the company that he worked with, and then also what he did on the different pieces. So that's like a thumbnail example. And you can include this right with your demo reel. And another way to include a breakdown is to put slates before each shot or superimpose a description of the shot. I really like the subtitles because it's easy to see as you're watching. Or some people have had a second audio track where I listen to and they just a description of what they did on every shot. Students often work on group projects. So on those projects, specify what you did on every shot. And if you did everything, you should say so in the breakdown. And your reel should be 2 minutes or less, probably less. You want to make every second count. So breakdowns always include it with your reel, and I'll also include a resume, and clearly label everything with your contact info. You'll also want to include a portfolio of life drawing and other artwork at the end of your reel. A portfolio should show sketching skills and a sense of color and detail. And we said don't put your best stuff last because the viewer may never get to it. We don't want to see a chronological work history or early tests, and we also don't want to see mediocre work. We want you to focus on your visuals and not your audio, and kiss off loud, obnoxious music or elaborate sound. You want to minimize erotic, satanic, and violent material because that's going to minimize the number of places that you can apply to. Some places don't like to see that kind of stuff. Now, if you're focusing only on those companies that are okay with those things, go ahead. But it's going to limit you in some of the companies that you can work at. You don't want to include live action film without animation or computer graphics unless you are a digital filmmaker. We don't want to see work in progress. You shouldn't ask for feedback by phone because people are super busy, and don't email images as attachments, of course, because of the fear of viruses. Now, with work in progress, what I mean by that is if something is unfinished. Now, you can also do a breakdown, like a shot breakdown showing like all the steps that you've taken for that shot. Like, if you're compositing something together, for example. So, We don't want to see any tutorial exercises on your reel, and don't embed images in email unless you have permission. And don't expect people to go and have to enter a password to view a portfolio or a reel. Don't include work that's not been released or is under an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement that you sign. So you should not be submitting work that has not been released. And don't send the exact same reel in 6 months. We have good visual memories and we've seen it before. Color bars are not necessary. And don't wait until a conference to submit your work. SIGGRAPH is a great place to network, but you should apply before. The exhibitors are on the website, and this is a picture of their job fair a few years ago. So demo reel tips, be impressive, but not excessive, and keep it short and sweet, and always include a breakdown. Always label it with your contact info, and quality matters. One shot can get you hired. A few years ago, there was a shot, a friend of mine told me that he was at a portfolio review at Sony, and there was a person who had submitted a reel that had a picture of a photorealistic whale. Looked like he had photographed a whale swimming through water at SeaWorld or something, and he started describing how he had done this shot. And the person, my friend, is a very tall person, very large, and moved in front of the door because that candidate, that applicant wasn't going to leave without a job offer from Sony. That shot was only 15 seconds long. So it doesn't have to be long. It just has to be great. Your demo reel shows you how you think and solve problems. You want to make them want to see more. Do you have any questions about reels and portfolios?
We have a couple of questions in the chat, so I'm just going to start at the top. So one of our faculty, Kim Loken, asks, does a website really need to be much more than a getaway to Vimeo, YouTube, and ArtStation? Presuming hiring people won't actually spend much time navigating it, they just want to get to the reel and the breakdown.
Yes, it can be just that. However, I recommend having a website, and the reason why is because we don't know if, we're hoping that Vimeo and all those things stay, but a website is yours to control. As long as you're paying for the hosting, you have control on that website. You don't have control on what ArtStation does. A few years ago we had MySpace, right? Nobody knows what MySpace is anymore, or Google Plus. So I do recommend having a website and having some of your work there as well as on ArtStation. And you can use the work from your website to populate on ArtStation or Vimeo. And you can also use that same artwork to post things on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. But I do recommend having a website because that's where, it's like your own home, right? You're not dependent on anybody else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also wanted to use this opportunity to suggest everyone to upload things to Vimeo rather than YouTube, because on Vimeo, you can update the video. So if you send like a link to someone and then you change your reel, you just re-upload the video and it updates. So you don't need to resend a new link to someone, but I don't think you can do that on YouTube. And correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, or Pamela, if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I think, and also, it is important to have updates regularly on your work. And when you do, you can reach out to all those people that you've applied to and say, hey, I have new work, because people love to look at new work. Don't be afraid of telling them that, and be sure that you post that.
Yeah,
to
nice.
share it. Don't keep it to yourself. Okay. Let
Yeah.
people know.
That makes sense. All right, so let me see. We have other questions here. Carly is asking, what if you're applying to be a storyboard artist? Does that count as a work in progress?
No, a storyboard. Oh,
It's a
storyboards are their own
pre-production.
entity, and that's not a work in. Yeah, that's not a. That's so. Storyboards are works of art. And that you would do it the same way, like on a website, and have your work up there, and also you can use ArtStation to um, display your work as well, just like in a portfolio. And you can also film it like an animatic so that it can play, like you can make a reel with your storyboards, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a work in progress. That's, well, it's like,
It's a
I admire people
pre-production
who do
tool, right?
storyboards because it's a production tool, and people who do storyboarding, they have a leg up because storyboards are used everywhere. It's not just animation, games, um, live action films. I mean, there's so much work for storyboard artists, and it's the first translation of words or concepts to paper, a first visual representation. So I also recommend storyboard artists to become versed in any pre-visualization software, and be previs artists as well, because there's a huge need for that.
That's an
So
amazing advice. I love that. Yes, pre-visualization. So for folks that are interested in 3D, just check that out. Look it up and just look up jobs that has to do with pre-visualization or pre-viz. You're going to find a couple of good stuff in there. All right, so other
yes.
questions. From Ian, we have, what happens when projects you work on are some company's intellectual property? What is the best way to include this when a lot of major companies are very particular over copyright?
Once the project is released, you can show it, but not before. And it's really important not to show it before. You can list it on your resume that you are working on that project. Sometimes it takes a long time for something to come out. That's a problem. But that's one reason why you need to also be working on your own stuff so that you have something to show. Also, it's important for you to have some kind of agreement in case the film does not come out, that you at some point can show the work on your demo reel. If you can put that in your contract, that would be a good idea, because there are some projects like games that get scrapped, at the, before they're completed, and you've done a lot of work and you have nothing to show for it. And if it doesn't come out, then you still won't have anything to show for it. So if you can have some kind of a clause in your contract that allows you to show work at a certain date, if they're expecting to have a release in 2024, January 2024, for example, and it doesn't come out, and you can say, well, after January 2024, I can show it on my demo reel, for
Nice.
example.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you, Pamela. So we have, let's see, do we have any other questions? Okay, so Jesse, one of our faculties, he's suggesting that using a card.co as a digital card to link your demo reel portfolio. And also, okay, so yeah, that's all of our questions at this point.
Oh, he was just saying that you can't. Okay, as a tool. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Oh, so there's a lot of different jobs in visual effects. These are some of the major ones: modeling, texturing, lighting, animating, and compositing. Some small companies want people who can do all of this stuff, and large companies want people who are specialists. Okay. And here's an example of a wireframe model. So we're going to go into interviewing next. The three basic questions that they really want answered among all those questions are, can you do the job? Will you do the job? And will you fit in? And that's really why they're interviewing you, is to find out, will you fit in? So the first person that I hired at Virgin Games came dressed in a three-piece suit, and my boss was usually wore swag T-shirts and cut-off shorts. But it didn't matter because what he had done was he had done his homework and he had researched our games. This was back in the day before the internet was really big. And he actually went to a store and looked at all the boxes and studied them. He showed a genuine interest in us and he knew our product. So he totally established that he fit in and he was an easy hire. Everybody wanted him. Even though he was dressed in a three-piece blue suit. And, looking at him, you would think, no, but he totally impressed everybody. He sold himself. So there's lots of ways to do your research. IMDb is the motion picture database, and Google and LinkedIn and trade publications. There's all kinds of ways. One of the things that's important in an interview is to ask for the job. I have had numerous interviewers who after they walked out, we wondered, do they really want to work here or not? So make sure that you say that you're interested in working for them and let them know after you're done interviewing. If that's the case, and you want to make sure it's a fit for you as much as it is a fit for them. So that's one reason to interview, and make sure that you have the questions ahead of time that you want to ask them. So congratulations, you've got the job and money is rolling in. What are you going to do with your first paycheck? You might be tempted to buy a Porsche, a new wardrobe, or video games, comic books, or other stuff. But I'd like to suggest an umbrella policy that will help you keep you covered in case of job loss. I want you to save enough money so you can pay all your expenses for 6 months, just in case you get laid off and you don't have to work at any job just for money. Your savings will allow you to take chances. What you earn is not as important as what you learn. When I worked on Family Dog, a half-hour episode for Amazing Stories, directed by Brad Bird, everyone was paid very little. But the people who worked on that show went on to become directors and other influential people in animation. Chris Buck later directed Surf's Up. Kevin Lima directed Enchanted. Kurt Weiss directed Hunchback of Notre Dame. Rob Minkoff directed Lion King and Stuart Little. And Ralph Eggleston was the art director for Up. Just a few people. There's no one way to get in. You need to focus on your strengths and your passion, whether it's photography, animation, design and illustration, digital filmmaking, games, graphic design. Make it easy for the recruiter to contact you. You want to make connections. Networking helps you find work. So get connected and start building those relationships. They say that there's 6 degrees of separation from anyone in the world. With social networking, the world is much smaller. We need to build our interpersonal skills as well as our internet skills. Southwest Airlines had an article that there was actually 4.74 degrees of separation. That means that there's fewer than 5 people between you and anyone else in the entire world. And Keller said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Build your network and help each other get to the top. LinkedIn is a professional network resource for you, and recruiters love this thing. My husband thinks that LinkedIn was invented for me. You can list your resume, you can post artwork, you can do all kinds of things on LinkedIn, and I highly recommend it. You need to be careful about the internet, though. Do not post things that you don't want recruiters to see, even on Facebook. Keep your private matters private. Networks are very powerful. Years ago, I was recruiting for a company in London called Frame Store, and I submitted them a person who lived in LA that I had worked with at the video game company. And I thought, oh, he's the perfect person, the perfect match. And they said they did not respond for several days. And I finally called them and I said, because I was very excited, and I asked them about it. And they said, yeah, well, one of our art directors worked with him years ago at a company in Ireland, and he had such a terrible attitude, we don't want to work with him again. So one of the things that's Publius Cyrus said, a good reputation is more valuable than money. So protect that. It's like climbing Mount Everest. We need help for big achievement, other people, and a network of friends. I have a lot of networking resources for you. SIGGRAPH local chapters, Women in Animation, and LinkedIn are just a few of them. I sent them to Ellie, and she'll distribute them to you. There's Professional Photographers of America. There is the Association for Design. There's advertising agencies. There's game developers. There's commercial producers. Shrek knows the power of networking. Once he got out of his house, he met a donkey and a princess. He had adventures. He got married. He had kids and many sequels. The most important people to get to know in the studio is the guy in charge of In and Out. Become friends with the IO guy so that you can get the shots to put on your demo reel. There are lots of places to network, like at local film festivals. And volunteering at film festivals is a great opportunity to make connections and get in free or at a discount. And you have an excuse to talk to everybody that shows up. And students can volunteer at conferences. Once we get back after COVID, there'll be conferences happening and you want to get involved and volunteer. Gamers, there's several game developers conferences. A few useful websites. Animation World Network has great resources for job opportunities and all kinds of articles. Animation Magazine, Motionographer, Creative Hot List, and internships.com, Gama Sutras for gamers. I hope that all of you have been talking to your career services people. Film Wisconsin also has some great resources on their website, and badgerguide.org also is a great resource for you guys. There's also several companies in Wisconsin besides Raven Software. Animation, for example, has some internships. Runner Animation is using a lot of freelancers. So we hear about jobs through the grapevine. Most jobs are not advertised. Don't burn any bridges. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said, when you give yourself, you receive more than you give. Help others and you will soar. Networking is all about helping others before asking for help. My mom gave me an assignment when I first went away to school. She said, you have to meet 2 new people a day and find out one thing about them. She was a fantastic networker, and I hope that all of you become fantastic networkers. Pursue your dream, and you will find success. What kind of swag should you collect at festivals and conferences? Business cards. There's incredible opportunities, but there are no handouts. So what is the secret formula for success? It's to do what you love. The ticket to success, whether your passion is photography or illustration, computer animation, graphic design, fine art, corporate identity, digital filmmaking, motion graphics, packaging, visual effects, web design, advertising design. Magic formula is hard work and networking and persistence. As long as you have ideas and are resourceful, you can make a living as an artist. But you must be adaptable and ready for change. Content is what really counts. What matters is the work. Nobody cares about how old you are, what school you attended. What makes a reel or portfolio great is your best work and work that looks like work that the company does. Sometimes all will be going well and you'll feel on top of the world. And sometimes you'll feel frustrated and wonder if your phone is not working. But hang in there and you will make it. It's stressful work, long hours. People want to work with who they know, who they can rely on. Become known as a person who's easy to work with. Be flexible and resilient and persistent. Develop a thick skin and keep a good attitude and keep smiling. You have the power to make your career happen. Always work at what turns you on. The most important tool you have, more valuable than a resume, portfolio, or demo reel, is your invisible resume. You start building it in school, you build it on every job. Your reputation is the most important thing you've got, and make sure it's stellar. It's up to you. You can have a great career by building a great reputation. What do people say about you? Remember, it's a small world, and your invisible resume, your reputation travels fast. Don't gamble with your invisible resume. You can bet that your reputation is extremely valuable. Your invisible resume is what people are saying about you, and it will stick with you throughout your career. Make sure your invisible resume is as solid as a rock. What you do will make a lasting impression. Deliver great work, be reliable, easy to work with, be a problem solver, and they will sing your praises. Treasure your career and stay on course. Your career will take off. Any more questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela, and thank you for pointing out this about this invisible resume. And you can start making it even when you're in school. Like your classmates are probably your future colleagues, your future references.
Yes.
So make yourself known. It doesn't have to be in person. Yeah, and
It's
Pamela and I
true.
never have met each other, but now we know each other, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Let's see if we have questions in the chat. So Emily is asking, any suggestions for good interview questions to ask employers?
Yes, ask about the team that you'll be working with. Ask about the project. Ask about their plans for the future. Ask the questions that you need the answers to make a good decision. That's the most important thing. You should know, like, what do you need to be happy in the job? Like, there are certain places that, I remember going on job hunts and noticing that there's a bunch of sleeping bags under people's desks. Well, okay, that means that people are spending way too much time at work. So you want to make sure that to ask about how, what upcoming projects they have, what are their plans for the future, if you want to stay there for a while, right? So ask them anything that you need to know to make a good decision for yourself. You want to have a place where you look forward to going to work. You don't want to be dreading going to work. So whatever questions, they're going to be telling, they're going to be selling their company to you as well. So it's selling on both sides, right? So you want to be
Yeah,
sure that you find out what you need to know.
awesome, awesome.
Good
Yes.
question. Really good
Yeah.
question.
A couple of more questions we have in the chat. Michael is asking, could you talk a little bit more about what it was like working on Family Dog, given it was a really high fidelity television animation for its time?
Yeah, it was 1980. Let's see, we did it in 1986. There was a warehouse in downtown LA, kind of near Skid Row, and we didn't have anything. I found Animation Desk, Hanna-Barbera, which used to be doing all the cartoons that I loved. They got rid of all their ink and paint desks because they were going digital, and they also were going overseas, so they no longer needed those. So we converted all those ink and paint desks to animation desks. And we had a lot of people that did freelance work on it. And a thing about Hanna-Barbera, by the way, a lot of people think that they have to have everything in a job description. Real brief here. Don't eliminate yourself. I interviewed at Hanna-Barbera. It was like my dream studio because I grew up with Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So, but I sent a resume in. I had 10%, and I swear it was not more than 10% of what the job description was, if that. It was a very highfalutin, VP of development type job, and I got an interview. I went into the building and I was interviewed by these two people, like a real interview. I was not prepared for the interview. I didn't get the job, but it opened my eyes to the fact that job descriptions lie. They want to put in all those different things to eliminate you from the process. So don't eliminate yourself. If you're interested in working somewhere, apply. It doesn't take anything. Okay.
Awesome.
That's really important. I wanted to add that in.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Couple of more questions. I'm just going to read two of them. One is asking, what is the best way to stand out in an interview? And the other one is asking, to be bold, are we able to connect with you on LinkedIn, or should we wait till we are closer to graduation?
Of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that question.
I know. I was like, yes.
Thank you for thinking that. You're way ahead. That's great. Yes. Connect with me on LinkedIn now. The interview, what was the question again about the interviewing?
What is the best way to stand out in an interview?
Do your homework ahead of time. Really know the company. Ask questions about what, present yourself like a total pro. Like you kind of assume that you're going to get the job, right? But be ready with you've done the homework, so you can say hey, I noticed that you're expanding because you've been awarded this show, and what do you think are the upcoming challenges, for example, on it? Or what do you think what kind of people are you looking for in order to make this a successful project? Or things that, like, put yourself in their shoes instead. Like pretend that you are the owner of the company. What kind of questions would you want to be asked? And kind of prepare that way. If you do a lot of homework, just like that the guy I was telling you about, who came to our video game company totally, that didn't look like he would be appropriate for the job. He had done his homework, so he knew, like, when he met one of the software engineers, he knew all of the projects that software engineer had done. I mean, he had it down, and it was impressive. I mean, that software engineer, all of a sudden, it was like, we want this guy, right? Because he had done that. He stood out. I mean, a lot of people, like, they just kind of walk through it. But he stood out. That's a way to stand out, is like really knowing the company, really wanting to work there, showing that you know all about them, and it's not that hard now because everything is online. I mean, websites, companies have websites, companies have reels. You can see their work. You can see what they've done. It's really pretty easy with computers and everything. And now with all this Zoom conferences and things, you can attend stuff and see what watch them and make notes of what they talk about. If they're talking about, like, I learned the other day that everybody wants Unity. I mean, it's Unity and Unreal. Those are the two. I mean, if anybody's not teaching that, they need to teach it because everybody wants it.
It's covered, I think, in the game design, right? Game design folks, back me up here. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Pamela.
That's one way to stand out, is just to really be enthusiastic. Even if you don't feel enthusiastic, act it. Pretend. It's practice. Just act like you are enthusiastic.
Fake
it goes a long
you are
way.
becoming it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Other questions. And we need to kind of wrap it up in 5 minutes or so. So let's see. Sam is asking, what is the biggest common mistake in demo reels?
Saving your best stuff for last, I think, is the most common.
Mhm.
Yeah. And not editing out stuff that you personally find questionable. You're not going to be there to explain anything.
Mhm.
So, not spending enough time thinking about um, how it, how someone else is going to view it.
Mhm.
So, um,
Yeah.
making it longer than it needs to be. It doesn't need to be long at all. It needs to be great. It can be like 15 seconds, 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be long. So
Awesome. Great
putting the extra
advice.
stuff in, that's not necessary. Those are the common mistakes.
Awesome. All right. And we have a question from Homer saying, do employers generally prefer to see a few longer finished works in demo reels, or do they prefer many shorter works that display a variety of skills, or does it depend on the employer?
It probably depends upon the employer, but I mean, what they want to see. So a demo reel demonstrates basically your kind of how you solve problems. So whatever demonstrates that, it can be a short piece, it can be a long piece. It really doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It could be a mixture.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up all the questions. Thank you so much, Pamela, for presenting this amazing presentation. And I will send a link in the chat, and that's a survey. I really appreciate it if you folks take that survey, because that helps us support events like this in the future. And also the links that Pamela talked about, I also sent them in the chat. And this meeting is being recorded, so you can come back to it and watch the recorded talk. So yeah, thank you so much, Pamela. And I hope you
Thank
have a nice rest of the
you.
day.
I'm typing something into the chat now.
Awesome.
Yeah. One thing my brother used to collect rocks and stamps, but I collect people. So yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, yay. Fantastic. Connect with me on LinkedIn from Pamela. Awesome.
Thank you everyone for your
Thanks.
time and any feedback that you have. I